Welcome into the Sunday night edition of Pushing the Pile, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. As always, welcome back to our Pushing the Pile YouTube channel. If you're watching there, if you haven't, go check it out. Go subscribe, like, it helps us. JP, though, this week 6, I was probably about 10 minutes into the week 1 to the 1 o'clock slate. And I have a quad box on one. I got Red Zone on the other. And I'm watching the games. And I'm like, oh, damn, this is not a great slate. It's like, this isn't good football right now. NFL not put their best foot forward. I'll just say in week 6, this was, whether it was via injury, whether it was just via the matchups, they've had better weeks, but I'll just say this. I had the best freaking day. I loved every goddamn minute of it, and we're about to break down all the slate. Let's get to it. Let's get to Sunday Night Football, where Detroit Lions go on the road to Kansas City and get pantsed. 30-17, really wasn't that close. Chiefs cover as 2.5-point favorites. The under hits there, 52.5. They're kind of back. JP.
Yep, my big number from this game was 52 yards. That's how many yards the Chiefs had on under center runs today. And that's something that, again, very niche, very football hipster thing to say, but the Chiefs have struggled running the ball for a large part of this season. And I think it was a lot of it was because they couldn't and didn't want to run the ball from under center. They were pretty good at it when they did, but they never actually wanted to commit to that. They had 10 carries for 52 yards under center, according to Bill Barnwell of ESPN, and they had a 70% success rate on all their under center runs, excluding all those Mahomes kneel downs at the end. So it felt like adding on to that run game that makes them more dynamic. It makes them more explosive. And you can tell that Patrick Mahomes is playing with much more comfort within the offense, knowing that he can trust his offensive line and he trusts the guys downfield. And this was a game where they kind of just poked holes in a lot of what the Lions wanted to do. You can't really play zone because they couldn't get any pressure. You can't play man because you have Rocky Sin out there and you have Arthur Mallette out there. You're losing players like minute by minute. Kirby Joseph goes out of the game for a little bit with a knee injury. And it felt like this game was for the Chiefs just to kind of reestablish themselves as an offense, especially right before they get Rashee Rice.
Yeah, the Chiefs offense, I said it early on this season, and then they lost Xavier Worthy. But I just thought that this had a chance to harken back to what we saw basically like before they traded Tyreek Hill. I thought this offense had a good opportunity to bring back that explosive element that was just missing. I mean, we talked about it a bunch. They were bottom 5 in both explosive run rate and explosive pass rate last year. Like, they got by, they won a lot of games, but it was ugly more often than not. And they didn't have the firepower to really race out. To really go out and stay out ahead of even bad teams, it seemed like last year. Now they do. Now this team, I think really, and once they add Rashee Rice, it's even going to be scarier, but the Chiefs passing offense looks like prime-ish Mahomes Chiefs passing offense. And then if you get that lead, that's when Chris Jones looks better. That's when George Karlaftis looks better. I think you saw it in this one. And now the Detroit Lions, injuries along their offensive line, when you're starting Dan Skipper, that's going to be a problem. And that was a big part of what did them in here. But I think the fact that the Chiefs kind of raced out and that the Lions were seemingly in catch-up mode the whole game is just something that, one, we hadn't seen from the Lions in this offensive explosion the past few weeks. And two, that the Chiefs haven't been able to do in quite some time.
I was actually really impressed with the Chiefs linebackers in this game. Of course,
Yes.
Leo Chenal had a really good game. They had
it had to be a Leo Chenal game. I said it had
yeah,
to be.
this was the Leo Chenal game. They from off the ball, they played him as like an edge defender. On one rep, I think it was on the JMO jet sweep in like the third quarter. They were in they had a 3-down front, but they walked up Leo Chenal as basically an edge rusher. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool because he's basically a 5th defensive lineman for him with the way that they play. And Nick Bolton is playing at a really high level against the run again. He looks like he's tackling much better. And I think that as a whole is really helping the Chiefs out a lot more. They are tackling so much better compared to the early weeks of the season. It felt like if you were trying to avoid a Chiefs tackler one-on-one, you were going to win that opportunity. And from there, it just looks like they've gotten so much more confident as a defense. The young guys are growing in the secondary. Of course, you have the Jamari Connor giving up touchdown, but I think some of the young guys are really standing out. Noel Williams, rookie, they kind of threw in there with the starters. He has played really well. He's been incredibly physical. I think he posed quite a bit of problems for Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't think it's like he's the Amon-Ra St. Brown stopper at all. Like, that's not what I'm saying here, but he had a really good game against Amon-Ra St. Brown, especially considering he's one of the more physical receivers in the game. So he matched the physicality there. But I was so impressed with their linebacker group today, especially against the run, because early on it looked like the Lions really wanted to hammer the Chiefs in the run game, and the Chiefs' second level really stood up to the challenge.
Yeah, this is the kind of win that I think springboards the Chiefs back into, I still think it's a flawed team. Don't get me wrong, but basically back into, hey, we deserve respect anywhere we go. If we, when they were below 500, some of the games earlier this season, that was not the case. But now with Rashee Rice coming back, I'm not sure they're going to be dogs in a lot more games this season. I really don't see that happening.
Yeah, and it's with adding Rashee Rice, you just add another element after the catch that really is going to frustrate a lot of defenses. You already have to worry about Xavier Worthy after the catch. You got to worry about Brashard Smith, who every time it feels like Brashard Smith is in the game, he's getting the ball. Like, I don't know what his target rate is when he's in the game, but it feels like every time he's in the game, he is getting the ball on some design screen. They had a rollout for him that I think Mahomes just kind of dirted, but it feels like you have another element in Brashard Smith to worry about. You have to worry about Travis Kelce, who sort of just like finds voids in coverages, and that's his role. You got to worry about Juju Smith-Schuster, who is an incredibly important role player. One of my favorite, just very niche, not niche, but one of my very favorite role players, especially on offense in the NFL with what he does. So with adding Rashee Rice to that, especially now you have Xavier Worthy healthy, everybody shines in limited roles. We talked about it earlier this season when the Chiefs were struggling. They're not going to have to give Hollywood Brown 15 targets a game now. You can see Hollywood Brown shine on the 3, 4, or in this game, I believe he had 4 targets in this game and 2 touchdowns.
That's the correct
amount.
That
feels like Hollywood Brown.
That's the correct amount.
That is the peak Hollywood Brown. You only need him running. You only need to target him 4 times. And on those 4 targets, convert 2 of those into touchdowns. The second touchdown was really cool. It was another one of their trail concepts that they run a lot. But instead of having Travis Kelce and Hollywood Brown run the trail route, Travis Kelce's running the clear route. And then Hollywood Brown comes in on the shallow, and Isaiah Pacheco follows him. But what happens is 3 Lions defenders end up running with Travis Kelce, and Hollywood Brown's wide open. So I think it's just those kinds of things. You're going to see a lot more added elements to this offense with Rashee Rice back in the fold.
Yeah, I am very excited to see what it looks like once that's the case, because right now it looks good enough to just take down the Lions in a game that, I think the Lions obviously were banged up on the offensive line, but the Chiefs went out and won that game. But it's like they took that away from the Detroit Lions. They looked like the better team in that game, up and down that roster. And for Detroit, I am worried about the secondary. I'm not worried about their offense. I do think maybe we got a little inflated sense of their offense given who they played the past few weeks. Like 38 against the Ravens doesn't look as great in retrospect. 52 against the Bears, solid. And then, the 34 against the Browns, you had a return touchdown in there. You had pick almost 6 in there that gave them another touchdown. So I think their offense got a little inflated sense of itself, but this defense, they're going to have to win a lot of shootouts with the secondary as it's currently constructed. Yes, 2 safeties are great. I'm not going to Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, elite safety duo. That puts a cap on you at least. But those corners on the outside right now you're just not going to win a lot of games if people really can go and attack and have enough time to attack those corners.
And optimistically, they're not going to play. They're going to be a playoff team. You're not going to go into the playoffs with DJ Reed, Terry and Arnold, and all of basically Andy Aleem McNeil also not being healthy. You're going to get all those guys back. And I think Aleem McNeil being back is going to be huge for them, because part of what Detroit struggles with, especially when all the secondary guys go down. Normally, that's when you want to play a little more zone, so you're not stressing your third and fourth string corners and man coverage trying to chase starters for the other team, but they can't play zone because they can't get pass rush outside of Aiden Hutchinson because they're missing Lee McNeil. I mean, they have, I think, Al-Qadim Muhammad as their like secondary like pass rusher at the moment, and that's just not going to cut it for a team that wants to go deep into the playoffs. So they especially need a Lee McNeil back, especially on the interior. But yeah, it's going to be hard to win games when Rockison is playing corner extensively for you.
All right, let's take a quick break, and after that, we're going to hit Niners Bucs, Seahawks Jags, the rest of the Week 6 slate right after this.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
Niners, Bucs. Bucs win 30-19, covers 3-point favorites. Over hits there, 47.5 was the number. My number for this was 82.1%. That is Baker Mayfield's completion percentage the past 2 weeks, and that is without Mike Evans, without Chris Godwin this week, and without Maye Buka for the end of this past game. Guy has been lighting it up. If you're doing MVP rankings right now, he is somewhere. He can't be lower than 3. I could see arguments for Josh Allen. I could see arguments for Sam Darnold, Drake Maye, Dak Prescott, Patrick Mahomes at this point. But like Baker is 1 or 2 in my eyes. He just has to be with what he has done for this team. The 3rd and 15 that he, or 3rd and 14 that he gets 15 yards and converts, breaks like 3 tackles. And then 2 plays later, drops a dime to Tez Johnson. The touchdown where he gets a roughing the passer call on him from Upton Stout and gets up and acts like is ready to take on the entire defensive line for the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, not only is he playing out of his mind, but like truly inspiring a fan base, a city, a nation right now with his play.
I've already seen Baker Mayfield TikTok set to the Pirates of the Caribbean theme song, and I think that's incredible.
They're going to go crazy this week.
It's going to be awesome. And Baker Mayfield, the biggest thing that's impressed me is the scrambles. It's the after, it is the out of structure plays, because it feels like Baker Mayfield has added that this year. He's become a much more dynamic threat on the ground. You have to account for him as a scrambler on 3rd downs. But in this game, he was just ripping it over the middle of the field, especially after Fred Warner went down. He was absolutely ripping it. There were a few plays. I think he missed a couple early to Egbuka on like some dig routes over the middle. He had missed those very long for the rest of the game. He was hammering them. He was hammering quick game. And then the shot to Tez Johnson was beautiful and also beautiful design. I think it was they're playing cover 3, and normally the outside corner is taking everything vertical. But what they do is they have a switch release. So then number 2 becomes number 1, number 1 becomes number 2. So you get that inside switch, and Tez Johnson's basically running free because the corner has to run a country mile to go get him. And it was a sick grab by Tez Johnson, who has made a lot of really fun plays without Godwin in the game. Egbuka goes out. He sort of adds more to this offense in terms of juice. And it's just, they're creating layers in the offense, and they're creating so many more cool things to add to this offense. And I think it's been really fun watching him sort of grow into this person, because he was not this guy in Cleveland. He was not this guy in Los Angeles or Carolina. And it's okay to say that he was bad in that portion of his career, but this guy is what everybody thought he could be coming out of Oklahoma, and it's really fun to see that.
Yeah, that Tez play, there was, I think like just before that, I don't know how long, but like a little before that, there was a play to Chris Olave in the Saints game, where I guess it was the route for like the whole slate before that. But there was a play to Chris Olave in the Saints game where it's like a wheel route to the outside, and it kind of goes off his hands, like off his fingertips, but he's just running. And I'm like, dude, in that situation, you just got to give it that little extra. Like, you got to leave your feet. There's some times where you just got to do that little bounce just to get that extra right at the very end while you're sprinting. Tez did that. Like, Tez, if he just tries to catch that while he's still running, he ain't catching that ball. You got to really, and like, obviously it hits the ground hard. It's not easy to do. I thought like almost lost the ball on the way down, but you got to do that. And Tez laid out, and that was a sick, sick grab from Tez Johnson. But to me, the bigger story in this game is obviously the injuries, though. I feel like this season in particular, like a lot of the reason why we came into this week and I was 10 minutes in and I'm like, what the hell is going on with the slate is that everyone's hurt, man. This game in particular, we are with Fred Warner going down in this game. At one point we had no Brock Purdy, no Ricky Pearsall, no Brandon Ayuk, no George Kittle, no Fred Warner, no Nick Bosa, no Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin, no Emeka Egbuka, no Luke Gedeke, and no Bucky Irving. Just like literally just
all the stars.
It just feels like this season in particular, so many potential, what had on paper week one, we're like, circle this game, it's going to be sick. It's just hard to feel that same way. And obviously, like, again, I love the slate. Don't get it twisted. I'm sitting here, I'm going to be crying my eyes out when it come May that we don't have games to watch. But it just felt like this game could have been something sick. And it just doesn't have the same panache when that is all on the sideline.
And it doesn't even account for the fact that Juwan Jennings told reporters after the game that he is playing with, and I quote, 5 broken ribs, a high and a low ankle sprain. You got people out there that should not be out there. You have guys like Juwan Jennings who are basically that SpongeBob meme with the full body cast. It feels like this happens to the 49ers every year, though. So I can't say the 49ers are cursed because this happens every year. This is a trend for them. So I don't know what's going on there, but that Fred Warner injury took all of the air out of the game.
Yes.
You could tell the 49ers defense was just missing not only their captain, but that guy over the middle of the field. You don't attack the middle of the field with Fred Warner in the game. And as soon as Fred Warner left, they're hammering middle of the field. I think it was his name's Cameron Johnson, the touchdown to end the half where he got rocked by Upton Stout. They can't communicate. They weren't communicating who's guarding who, and that's on Lenore, who should have ran with the receiver instead of staying with Cade Otton. And it's just those things where you're like, man, you really miss Fred Warner here. And it sucks for the 49ers especially because now you have to go in. You knew going into this season that you were going to be led by your veterans on defense, playing a whole bunch of young guys. Now both veterans are out for the season. Yeah. So now you're just praying those young guys got to grow up real fast.
And they didn't even have Nick Martin, their third round linebacker, active today. So not even getting young guys some snaps there. It's as much as the record does not reflect it, obviously, at 4-2, it feels like a lost season for the 49ers. Feels like, it just flat out is a lost season. What are you going to do without Nick Bosa and Fred Warner? That was your defense, and it is unfortunately gone. And I do worry, offensively, it'll all come back. Like, everyone should be back and healthy at some point this season, and your offense will be sick when that's the case. However, in the meantime, what you're doing is just overloading Christian McCaffrey. It's just saying, hey, Christian McCaffrey, every game is going to be won on your legs. He has played 49 more snaps this season than any running back in the NFL, a full game's worth through 6 games here, basically, and has 19 more touches than any other running back in the NFL. So, he is getting worked every single game, and it's just that is unsustainable too. You can't. We've seen it with him. His body is broken down on numerous occasions throughout his career. That is just not going to. It can win you games in the meantime. But if the goal is really a Super Bowl, do we think Christian McCaffrey at this rate is going to have any juice left by January?
And it's not even the fact that they are handing Christian McCaffrey the ball so many times. They are not good running the football. Christian McCaffrey had 17 carries for 54 yards in this game. They were not good running the football. You worry about running into those brick walls constantly because you're loading up hits on Christian McCaffrey, who has shown that he also is a guy that really can't stay healthy. And not only does it do that, you're forcing Mac Jones, who also is playing through like 7 different injuries that we might not know about, to throw the ball 39 times. And that's not
And he
something
just saw a
that,
dead guy last week too.
yeah, like there's so much has happened to Mac Jones since he got to San Francisco. Like
Oh my God.
he moved out west and became the main character in a movie that he was not expecting to be the main character in. So props to Mac Jones for playing admirably. The buddy ball with Kendrick Bourne is on fire. I think it was the end of half. He threw a dig to Kendrick Bourne that went for like 30 yards. I was like, okay, like once every like 30 plays, you turn into Tom Brady. That's pretty cool. But the more you have him throw the ball, the more the limitations show up. Yeah. The more that, you get to, I think it was a play in the red zone where Mac Jones is going to scramble and he looks like there's like 2 yards. They're like on the 2-yard line. He's going to scramble. He thinks he's going to go try and get in for the touchdown. And then I think Tyke Smith comes flying in from the corner and Mac Jones immediately stops and runs backwards to try and throw the ball away. And I was like, he understood then that he does not have the facilities for this. And it sucks because there's a clear cap. Both interceptions that Mac Jones threw today were on the exact same play. So there's that hard cap with Mac Jones. And eventually you're going to have to pay the piper. You're hoping you're going to get Brock Purdy and George Kittle back. But at that rate, like, you're going to have both those guys back without a defense that can slow anybody down at this point. So you're going to have to live in shootouts. And can Brock Purdy and George Kittle get you over that hump?
Yeah, no more outbreakers for Mac Jones. Just inbreakers all day long. Let him just throw digs and slants until the cows come home. Because you still got to give him a ton of credit, man.
Tough as nails.
The receiving core of Kendrick Bourne, Jake Tonjes, Demarcus Robinson, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. It's like, buddy, to go for 347, even if he did throw a couple picks, hats off to that guy. He's kind of bald in his opportunity, but yeah. I think everyone was right though. In 2021, they should have gone Mac Jones over Trey Lance, at least because Trey Lance is
quarterback.
All right, let's get to Seahawks at Jaguars. Seahawks win 20-12. No Duval from me this week. -1.5 point favorites. The Jaguars were. They lose at home. 47.5 points is the over/under. What's your number, JP?
My number for this game is 7, and that's how many sacks the Seahawks had in this game. For context, Trevor Lawrence has been sacked six times total prior to this game. So, yeah, this was a really, really bad game for the Jaguars up front. And I said it during the game, and it'll always be true. You really cannot win a lot of games if you can't block anybody up front. It's going to be really hard. And you could tell the Jaguars were making this game so hard on themselves because they couldn't block. And, they couldn't run the ball, which, again, the Seahawks are so good at defending the run out of 2 high shells. It really sort of they just hammer down on you. They force you to be explosive in ways that you don't want to be. And then what happened was on a lot of the sacks, it was miscommunications on stunts and loops and pass rush games. Robert Hainsey did not play in this game, starting center. So you had Jonah Monheim come in, backup third-day center, who was a rookie. That's a really tough ask for a center, and who was a rookie going up against Seahawks defensive line. But I think Ezra Cleveland had his worst day as a Jaguar, and it's just they were not getting the proper depth. Like, they weren't working in concert on the left side of the offensive line. That's where most of the pressure came from. But you also found yourself still only down 8 to one of the better teams in the NFC. So I think, again, there are some procedural issues that need to be cleaned up. There was a miraculous Brian Thomas Jr. touchdown catch that was taken off the board because Travis Hunter was offsides. And then
miraculous is an understatement. That thing was a literal pick that was given to Brian Thomas Jr.
It was the type of play that never works in Jacksonville's favor. And then it does, and then it doesn't.
Dude, they had some great Jags plays, though. Not to interrupt you, but that offsides and then Trevor Lawrence false starting himself was just incredible.
Incredible Jaguars football. You always know. You never know what you're going to get from the Jaguars week in, week out. but it's always going to be entertaining. They had 10 penalties for 76 yards. They are one of the most, if not the most, penalized team in the NFL. And they're still in this game. I think they're honestly 2 big plays away from this game being a lot closer. The first one was the big JSN touchdown catch, which he and Sam Darnold have such a good mind meld. Like on that play, they're running a scissors or a CL concept where you rarely ever throw the post. You're only alerting the post if the safety comes off the roof on that corner route. Andrew Wingard is put in a bind because that corner route is hitting him hard, and you want to protect the linebacker. He comes off the roof, and Greg Newsome, first time playing for the Jaguars, he's expecting help to his inside that never comes. And JSN just walks into the end zone for a big touchdown. And then you had the big A.J. Barner play where he turns around Wingard to end the game. It's just those plays where you're just like, they protected Sam Darnold better. There were a couple big plays. But outside of that, I mean, the Seahawks still didn't run the ball very well. It's just those explosives to JSN and A.J. Barner and the fact that they could protect their quarterback while the Jaguars just couldn't protect them at all.
Yeah, I think this was a masterclass from Clint Kubiak in the fact that you do not have to run the ball well or be a real threat in the run to have an effective play action game. They had 183 passing yards on 9 play action dropbacks, 20 yards per play action, 112 yards on the other 20 dropbacks. Please do not take that as me trying to slander Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold has been exceptional this year. The pairing of him, Clint Kubiak, Jack Smith-Njigba is just like absolute money. The truly, like, you could not be doing offense better than what those 3 are doing right now. And Darnold's playing mistake-free football, even when he's pressured. Like, this offensive line in front of him is not great objectively when they have to drop back to pass. And he has 2 turnover-worthy plays according to PFF all year. He has fewer turnover-worthy plays than actual interceptions. Like, he has had poor interception luck this season. The guy is playing mistake-free ball. He's making the big plays when it counts. The throw, like Jack Smith-Njigba, he was open, yeah, but that throw also was not slowing him down whatsoever. Didn't bring Greg Newsome back into the play. He has been dialed in. And then Jack Smith-Njigba, we just, like, he has made the leap to, man. I was watching the tape afterwards, and I'm just like, I'm not sure how many guys I'm ready to take over Jack Smith-Njigba right now. Like, obviously Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. After that, it starts to be a conversation, Miles. Like, CD, AJ Brown, I was like in the conversation, but no one runs the complete route tree, I think, as good as JSN right now. Now, he may not be the pure go ball threat that some of those other guys are, but if you want to run him one-on-one against, just basically like a route that says, hey, go get open, he is going to do it as good as anyone in the game at this point in time. He's just so goddamn crisp.
Like you said, he is not a dominant athletic threat. He will never be a dominant athletic threat like Jamar Chase is or AJ Brown or even like the suddenness of Justin Jefferson. But he's just so smooth and so efficient with his movements.
Mm-hmm.
He's catching the ball constantly, getting upfield. Instant getting upfield, and he, like you said, he can run the whole route tree from many different positions. And I think that's the biggest thing. He's winning out wide now, and I think that's a biggest question that we had going into the season is who's going to be the outside receiver for the Seahawks. Whole time, Jack Smith-Njigba was like, "Yeah, I'm going to do that at the highest rate in the NFL." And still win at a very high rate in the NFL. So there's not many guys who are playing better than him right now. And Clint Kubiak and Sam Darnold do such a good job of maximizing his targets. It's not just like feeding him for the sake of feeding him, but they're maximizing the ways that he can win. And they're using, like I said, the threat of the run game and a threat of heavy personnel to get explosives. Sam Darnold, I don't think he's had a yards per attempt below 8.9 at all this season. He is going to the bank and getting big bills. It is ethical quarterbacking right here. No checkdowns. We're not checking the ball down. We're throwing it straight into the end zone. And he and JSN, like I said, have such this good mind meld where they're playing at such a high level. And it's made the Seahawks really fun to watch.
On the flip side, though, Brian Thomas Jr., so he has a good stat line today. 8 catches, 90 yards, touchdown. Obviously, that's that one called back, but like he didn't deserve it. Let's be real. But he drops another pass and kind of alligator armed another pass. He was slipping, but also like didn't really commit to go for one. Does he have that dog in him? Does BTJ have the dog in him?
I do have to say it was a beautiful pass by Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, it was such a good.
It was
third
so
down.
good.
It was in the fourth quarter.
Pressure in his face. They're running dagger, and he just hammers this dig to Brian Thomas Jr. and it hits off the hands. And I'm like, oh no! Like it was like that meme of the dog closing his eyes. It's like, oh, like that. That was it right there. I don't think it's that Brian Thomas Jr. doesn't have that dog in him. I do think he is much more comfortable running outbreakers than he is inbreakers. He is much more comfortable living on the outside. Yeah. And that's perfectly fine. I mean, there are a lot of guys like that. You don't really see T. Higgins really running like all these digs and middle of the field stuff.
Being a target.
Yeah, like he's a comeback, go route, hitch route guy. Mm-hmm. And that's something that Brian Thomas Jr. does really well. You think about the game against San Francisco, you think about the Kansas City game, it's all outbreakers. It's all go balls. It's all speed outs. That's where he wins. But for the Jaguars, especially without Britton Strange, they need somebody to do the middle of the field work in this offense. Travis Hunter is 190 pounds, maybe. He's not going to do the middle of the field stuff. He is still learning the route tree. You, like I said, don't have Strange. Tim Patrick, maybe, but Tim Patrick is like your wide receiver 4 or 5 at this point. De'Ami Brown is your go ball specialist. Parker Washington is 5'9". So you really don't have that guy unless Brian Thomas Jr. becomes that. So the only thing you can really do is just keep feeding them. You're going to have to live with the lumps because sometimes like you'll get a play like you get it against the Texans. They hit big on a backside dig earlier in this game. It's just you have to be consistent. So getting that consistency down, just keep throwing him the ball because it when it works, it works. It's just the big moments where it's like that's Jaguars football right there.
All right, let's get to Cowboys at Panthers. Panthers win, move to 3-3. They win as 3-point dogs at home. Second straight week they win as dogs at home, 30-27. Over hits as it always does in Cowboys games. 49.5 points was that number. And my number from this one, Rico freaking Dowdle.
Yeah,
473. That's his yards from scrimmage the past 2 weeks. That is the 7th most in NFL history for a 2-game span. 473. What in the world? Like Rico freaking Dowdle. And I went back and watched because I'm just like, I'm fascinated. And now last week I was like, okay, it's the Dolphins. Like, right. Everyone's going to run for 200 against the Dolphins if they really want it. If they really want to go for it, most teams in the NFL probably could. But the Cowboys haven't been god awful against the run this year. They're obviously not a great run defense, but not god awful. And I think one of the biggest things that this offense has done from early on the season to now is they almost fell into it. Ja'Tavion Sanders getting hurt because now they're playing Mitchell Evans more. And Mitchell Evans and Tommy Tremble have been going to work in the running game as tight ends. The Eagles need to take some notes on this because if you don't have 2 guys that can block like those 2 guys can block, you don't need those 2 tight ends in the football field. You're just sacrificing yourself. But if you got them, they are truly weapons. So I think Howie Roseman, one of his biggest issues is not investing in that blocking tight end to really add on to that running game. But the Panthers have a guy in Mitchell Evans, and obviously Tommy Tremble's always kind of been a guy in that regard. And they're moving the ball on the ground now.
I was a huge fan of Mitchell Evans coming out of Notre Dame. I said I put him on my like all JP team, which guys that I think are going to get drafted very high, but I don't care. They're really fun. Mitchell Evans, Tommy Tremble, they kick ass in the run game. That is what they do. That is their job on the team. But with Ja'Tavion Sanders getting hurt, leaning into that more. The Panthers need to lean into their ground game. Their offensive line is built to mash. It is built to be physical on the ground. This is kind of what you expect from a team that plays Ike Ekwonu, Damian Lewis, Robert Hunt, Cade Mays now, and then Taylor Moton. You need to whoop ass up front for this offense to work. And then I think that Bryce Young, with knowing that the run game is working, there is the customary, just like the bad like first quarter Bryce Young is always going to play a bad first quarter, but once he gets that out of his system, he makes some nice throws. It's why you can't quit Bryce Young. It is always why you're like, hey, you know what? He made some really good throws here. You can't quit him, even though he's going to play the bad first quarter. But this Panthers offense has sort of felt like it's found an identity. Even with Chuba Hubbard out, it should be running the freaking ball. And then you're minimizing, well, not minimizing, but you are minimizing what you need to ask of your quarterback.
Yeah, I think the scariest thing is they don't even have Robert Hunt, and they didn't even have Robert Hunt and Taylor Mouton for this game. So truly can't even get better on the ground on that right side and should. This has got to be you're built. That's what you're built for. I mean, Cade Mays can't pass protect. The guy can clear out a double team. Like this is what you're made for. Ike Ekwonu, people were calling him a guard because he's so darn good in the running game. This is the Panthers. Their running game could be dominant. Has been dominant the past 2 weeks. And they were stopping the run. Their defensive tackles right now, Derek Brown, Bobby Brown, those guys are playing inspired ball against the run. 31 yards on 19 carries against the Cowboys rushing offense that, like, heading into this game, rolling people up, man. It was one of the best in the NFL. It was leading in success rate in the entire NFL. They did not succeed too often in this game. Okay, Carolina, if you can run the ball, stop the run, they might win some games.
This is the second straight week. They've also held a good running game to under 100 yards. They held Miami to, I believe, 19 yards on 14 carries. So this is another week where they've put together a couple of strong games in run defense after I said they were the worst run defense in football. So I'm glad they heard. I'm glad they listened, because it feels like if you have an identity of run the ball, stop the run, that is the foundation for every football team. You can get by with running the ball and stopping the run, and they had the personnel to. You think about Pat Jones, you think about Nick Scorton, who can play the run really well. You had the personnel to do this. Pass rush is still going to come along. It was not great today. Yeah. Dak Prescott was awesome. George Pickens was just, you got the full George Pickens experience today. The big catch where he's going over the middle, catches the ball. He does not even try and protect the ball at all. He's holding it like he's holding a loaf of bread in his hand, and then he hurdles a defender, then tries to hurdle the same defender, and it just doesn't work at all. You got the full George Pickens experience today. He is truly one of the most electrifying players in the NFL, because you just never know what's going to happen. But the Panthers feel like they're building something here, and I think that's good for them, especially as they try and figure out who is going to be your core franchise players.
Yeah. I will make my plea yet again. Dallas, you must re-sign George Pickens. Like, you have to re-sign George Pickens. You want the
purest Cowboy receiver of all time.
Yes. It carries the legacy. He needs 88. Like, give him 88. The man needs 88.
Trade numbers.
Oh, give him 88. All right, let's get to Patriots at Saints. Patriots win 25-19. Cover is 3.5-point favorites on the road. 45.5 points is the over-under. And your New England Patriots, well, they are 4-2. They're cooking. They're cooking right now. Drake Maye, whew.
Man, he might be the prince who was promised. My big number was 57%. That is Drake Maye's success rate on all of his dropbacks today. He was on fire today. He was taking that trend of playing against the Bills. He passed it over into this week against the Saints. He was incredible in this game. There were a few passes where just like, man, the high level accuracy downfield, the ghost OPI on Stephon Diggs, a beautiful ball.
I wouldn't call it a ghost. I think it was OPI.
It was the illegal push off.
Yeah.
He doesn't fully like clear him out, but what they teach is if you don't fully clear out, that's legal. It's like the Chris Paul like elbow into the jumper. As long as you don't fully clear out, it's legal. But they called it the Kayshon Boutte touchdown downfield, just a sick throw. And he's just playing with such high accuracy. And that's something that passed over from 2024 into 2025. He's playing with much better command against pressure. I believe his numbers against pressure were insane in this game. All of his touchdowns were on 25-plus yards downfield and under pressure per next gen stats.
And he had one called back.
Yeah, he had one called back. Under pressure, he was 10 of 16 for 177 yards, those 3 touchdowns, and he was only sacked once. That is elite quarterback numbers. His ability to maneuver and find ways to win, even without a run game. They did not run the ball very well. Drake Maye was their leading rusher in this game. So the fact that he is stacking wins like this, stacking good play like this, it's really exciting for the future of the Patriots, because you're thinking now like, hey, we can go make a run at the playoffs. We can go and make a big run with a guy playing at this level.
I think one of the biggest distinctions that you see in young quarterbacks to know who has it and who maybe doesn't is who can, from the pocket, when you're moved off your spot, when you are pressured, but it's not like you're getting sacked, but you are pressured, who can still go downfield. So many quarterbacks, and you saw it to start the day at 9:30 a.m. So many quarterbacks, when they feel something, it's either they turn into a runner or they're going to a check down. Drake Maye, that's just like objectively, he is still going through what he needs to go through when he feels pressure. If he moves off a spot, the progression doesn't stop. He's still looking to where he can win. And in this game, like, dude, the confidence was off the charts. So you get the OPI digs on the go ball. Very next play, it's a 3rd and 27. He drops the exact same dot, like the exact same throw, just goes back to the well, go ball, Matt Collins kicks off his hands. Should have been a completion, but like just insane sort of stuff that, yeah, you see a game like this and you know, like that guy is a franchise quarterback. There is no debate at this point. It's just, where is his ceiling going to go? And given what his supporting cast is right now, given that it's like Kayshon Boutte's your best separator and Stefon Diggs is like your most reliable option, it's like, it's only going to get better. His supporting cast is only going to get better. So truly the arrow probably is only pointing up for him at this point.
Can I talk about Kayshon Boutte real quick?
Yes,
because
please
the
do.
dude has turned himself into a useful, productive player after being borderline off the team for the first couple of years of his career. He has turned himself into a very useful player. All of his 5 catches went for first downs in this game. There were the deep passes downfield, the ability to focus and concentrate in those contested situations. That's what I think the Patriots have been missing with Drake Maye, and what you thought you were getting in other guys, maybe like Mac Hollins. But Kayshon Boutte is doing it. The big 3rd down to Kayshon Boutte on the sideline where they reviewed it and he gets both feet in. That's an incredible play and an incredibly confident play by a guy that really has grown a lot in his time in New England. I'm really excited for Kayshon Boutte to continue this growth, because this wasn't like, he was barely on the roster a few years ago. And the fact that he is making these plays after everything that he has been through in his football career, it's really cool to see him grow and really cool to see Drake Maye continue to trust him, especially downfield.
Well, here's the interesting thing about Kayshon Boutte. He was one of the weirdest prospects I can remember, because his true freshman year at LSU, 2020, I believe, he went for 300 yards against Ole Miss last game of the season. He was Malik going to be the next, actually not. At that time, it was the next Jamar Chase. But like, he was supposed to be what Malik Neighbors ended up being, right? He was supposed to be this like top 10 pick, top 5 pick. Next year, didn't quite live up to that. Ankle injury halfway through the season, and it was like horrible, had surgery on both ankles, comes back the next year, awful year, looked terrible, but some reason declares for the draft after his junior year, declares for the draft. He was 20 years old. So like, he's younger than Trey Harris, who just got drafted in the 2nd round. He was in the 2023 draft and is literally younger than Trey Harris. Like, he's younger than a lot of receivers that got drafted this year. But the ankle injuries were so bad, the performance was so bad, no one wanted this guy. He obviously falls to the 6th round, but like, the talent was always there. And I'm very happy for him that he looks finally healthy. He looks like the guy that we always thought we were going to see. And like I said, he is probably their best, just pure get open wide receiver at this point in time down the football field. And man, probably the only one I'd say is like in your long-term plans. Obviously, Pop Douglas is like a cool gadget option to have, but like he's your number 4. Ideally, that's your number 4 in an offense. You want 2 to 3 real wide receivers in front of him, and then he comes in and plays a little role. Like he mixes it up. He adds a little juice. But yeah, Patriots team, I said this, like they're 4-2. They don't have a lot of hard games. They don't play a tough schedule. They are going to be in the playoffs when it's all said and done. They just are. Get used to it. All right. Chargers, Dolphins. Chargers eke it out 29-27 in Miami. They don't cover the 4.5 point spread. The over does hit there. And my number, it's 173. That's how many yards, career rushing yards, Kamani Vidal had heading into the day. And today he had 124. Obviously, I don't think he's unseating Amarian Hampton anytime soon when he's healthy. But he could add a little explosive element that I think they're going to need when you don't have your offensive tackles right now. You're going to need him to create some big plays because they just, I mean, especially without Quentin Johnson. I can't believe I'm saying this, but they missed Quentin Johnson in this game. They missed the downfield threat the Chargers did offensively.
Yeah. Did you see the Bobby Hart sack where I think the Dolphins had 6 on the line of scrimmage they had 5 on the line of scrimmage, and he goes to block Jalen Phillips, but somebody runs into the B gap between he and or he thinks somebody's going to run into the B gap between he and the right guard. And he turns his head and turns his body away from Jalen Phillips, who is just standing there like he's thinking that there's actually going to be like a pass protector in front of him. And like he does his move and he's just like hitting air. It's like he's imagining that there's actually like pass rushers happening. Like there's a guy lined up in his B gap that doesn't end up blitzing. So he stops his feet, stares at the right guard, and Jalen Phillips just standing there like, is this actually happening? He gets a free run on Justin Herbert, ends in a sack. But this game truly was like Justin Herbert made some real superhuman plays to finish this game. The McConkey catch and run was just a monster play. That was just you can do so much. Like it's always in like cartoons and anime where you can fight a character so much and you can have them down and then they pull out the super move. It's like when Goku pulls out a Kamehameha, you're losing the fight. And that's what happened. They had Justin Herbert dead to rights in the pocket. I think he shakes Chubb off and ends up throwing this pass to Ladd McConkey, who also shakes Jason Marshall Jr. off. And he ends up going for 40 yards, game-winning field goal after that. That's just one of those, like, what do you do? You just say, like, we'll try and tackle better. But this game was truly, like, you had some Justin Herbert monster plays in there.
In my head, I was thinking, I'm like, what would Bryce Young have looked like in that situation? Like, like these, like, smaller quarterbacks, I'm like, they would have just gotten destroyed. Like, they would be on the turf. They would be thrown, like, and Justin Herbert just like shrugs. It's just like, I'll just move the ball into my other hand real quick and then you're gone. But it's why like the best quarterbacks in the NFL are either monster athletes or large human beings. It helps when you're playing 250-pound defensive ends. A little trivia question though for you. Do you know the last time Bobby Hart started a game at offensive tackle in the NFL?
Started a game?
Started a game.
Oh man. It can't have been post-pandemic. He cannot have been a post-pandemic player.
I think he was still having to test for this. It was technically post-pandemic.
Oh God.
It was week 9 of 2021.
Oh no.
He hasn't started games since week 9 of 2021.
Oh my gosh.
That's how bad things have gotten for the Los Angeles Chargers offensive line. They started a veteran offensive tackle who hasn't started a game in 4 years.
And like I said, he didn't even know who he was blocking out there. On the Justin Herbert, like superhuman play, both he and Mekhi Becton lose immediately off the ball. Like Jalen Phillips is actually the guy that gets shaked off by Herbert. He and Chop Robinson immediately win. Like that play is over if it's any quarterback that's not Justin Herbert.
Did you see the Tua quote?
Oh my goodness.
That's getting passed around.
Yeah.
Now, so here, I'll read the quote and then give my take. But he said, we have guys showing up to player-only meetings late, guys not showing up to player-only. Let me read that again. We have guys showing up to player-only meetings late, guys not showing up to player-only meetings. Basically, Tua is calling guys out when in reality, it's like, brother, that like you're the leader of this team. Guys aren't showing up to player-only meetings. You go and talk to them. You go and say something to them. You don't tell the media that it's happening and like going and like telling the teacher like, hey, this guy's being bad. It's like, dude, you're the teacher here. You're the guy who's in charge of this classroom. Yeah, Mike McDaniel, like we know he should also be in charge of this classroom. And unfortunately, I think we all know from the stories and just watching him that he's not quite in charge the way you would want an NFL coach to be in charge. But Tua's got to pick up. You are the quarterback of the team. You got to pick up that slack. He's low on the list of problems right now for them in terms of his performance. Of his 3 picks today, it was like one was a drop from Jalen Waddle. One was Devon Achane running a bad route because he's a running back trying to play wide receiver. And then the last one was the end of game, whatever the hell that was. But if things are going bad in the locker room, like it is your job to make them better. Like that is your job. It's your job to.
That's my thing. You can't be the quarterback of an NFL football team and go, well, this guy didn't show up to the meeting late. This guy didn't show up to the meeting late. Like it feels like you're passing off blame.
Yes.
And while it might be true, those guys didn't show up to player-only meetings. You can't say that to people. You can't say that publicly. That's one of those, you just got to say, we got stuff we got to worry about in the locker room. It will get solved. That you don't air that to the public. And it feels like Tua has kind of done that a lot more often this year.
Yeah.
He's gotten a little testy with media this year. Like there was the whole, I think it was like, I want to see somebody come do what I do. Like I think it was after like Cam Newton had criticized him, which is very funny considering like he's asking Cam Newton to come do what Tua does. And it's like, yeah, man, noted podcaster only Cam Newton, who just got his jersey retired at Auburn. But yeah, it felt like he was passing off the buck. He was passing off the blame. Mike McDaniel said after, because he was asked about Tua's quote, and he's like, he's talking to somebody in the locker room, but I'm sure that'll get solved. And now, not only have you created a problem within the media, you've created a problem. You've put your own team at odds with each other. Nobody knows who Tua is talking about. Mike McDaniel might not know who Tua is talking about.
Yeah,
so now you've put everybody on tilt in this locker room, and you're already 1-5. This just doesn't feel like the vibes are just awful in Miami. And there's a tweet from Deshaun Hamilton, who was on I believe he's on the Dolphins practice squad earlier this year. And I'm going to quote the tweet. This dude, ... the starting quarterback, ... was late to the first team meeting during my 3 seconds on the Dolphins. 4 laughing emojis. And everything was all cool in there. So yeah, things are just not going well in Miami.
Brian Flores tried to warn us. We called him the bully. He tried to warn us. I do have to say this, though. The Dolphins' offensive line right now, we talk about Herbert's offensive line. We talk about some other offensive lines around the NFL that are banged up. I just have to take a moment to work through their starting 5. Patrick Paul at left tackle. Okay, fine. He might be their second best player right now. Jonas Avianaya at left guard. We've talked about it a bunch. I think he had like 3 straight weeks of 0.0 PFF pass blocking grades.
Oh, gosh.
Aaron Brewer at center. Good. Best player on that offensive line by far. Cole Strange is starting at right guard. Cole Strange, who couldn't even stand the Patriots offensive line, starting at right guard. Larry Borum, starting at right tackle. Larry Borom, who couldn't even stay on the Bears offensive line, starting at right tackle. So it's awful there in Miami. And again, Tua's low on the list of problems, but he's not the guy. This is not the leadership to have a ship going down on. It's a leadership group that may not go down with the ship, that may start pointing fingers as we're seeing right now, unfortunately. It's just might get ugly before it gets better there in Miami. All right, let's take a break. After that, going to get to the rest of the slate, and then we'll get out of here.
You can't count on Derek's tong skills.
Oh, Tony, I think it hit the ground.
But you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
Cardinals at Colts. Colts win 31-27 in the Jacoby Brissett revenge game. They don't cover the 6.5-point spread. The over hits there at 47.5. What's your number from this one, JP?
My number is 123 rushing yards for Jonathan Taylor. And I know you talked about MVP candidates. I think Jonathan Taylor deserves to be an MVP candidate this year, because when things go wrong, when things are not working for the Colts, that is their get right. That is their get the ship back going. Jonathan Taylor has been super explosive on the ground and through the air for this offense, and that's their bread and butter. The way Daniel Jones is playing is through the fact that they've been able to run the ball effectively. They're one of the best running teams in the NFL, and it's through Jonathan Taylor, who's been super duper explosive. Quentin Nelson has not lost a step at all. There's a play, I think it was a pin pull, where he goes and meets Jalen Thompson like 10 yards downfield, and it ends exactly how you'd expect. Quentin Nelson and Jalen Thompson meeting downfield. But I do think Daniel Jones overcame a really rocky first three quarters, because in the fourth quarter, he led 3 straight scoring drives. Field goal, touchdown, was very confident under pressure. In fact, I do think like the biggest thing that's changed for Daniel Jones in this second era as a starter is his play under pressure. Against the Cardinals, he was 9 for 9 under pressure in this game, 9 for 9, 93 yards and a touchdown per Next Gen Stats. It was truly a very, very good game for him. I still remain worried about this defense. I am going to remain worried about this defense for a long time. They don't have, and I think I'm going to say this carefully, because I do think they have good players on that team, on the defensive side of the ball. They don't have impactful players in high leverage situations. They don't have a Trey Hendrickson like with what Lou Anarumo had in Cincinnati. They don't have a guy who they don't have a guy who can go get you a bucket in the fourth quarter. They don't have a guy who's going to immediately win. You had a great Adebawore pass rush rep late in the fourth quarter, but you don't get that consistently from him yet. You're waiting for edge rush presence. You're waiting for that from that defense. And you could tell that Drew Petzing and the Cardinals knew that, because this is the best the Cardinals' offense has looked, I think, this entire year. Like, they were moving the ball at will. Jacoby Brissett, low-key, looked really good running this offense, throwing the ball downfield. I think it was to the point where I was like, how long is Kyler supposed to be out again? Like, how long is this injury going to be? Because Jacoby Brissett moved the ball effectively. And again, it brings up the question for the Cardinals, is this a Kyler Murray problem? And I think that's a tough way to live. It's a tough experience for this always to be the question that you ask about Kyler. But this game for the Colts was won on the back of their MVP candidate running back, who is, I'm not going to say he's carried the offense, because obviously you've gotten contributions from everybody, but he has been the engine behind why the Cardinals have been one of the most fun offenses in the NFL this year.
Yeah, if I had to pick a number from this game, it would have been 100. And that number would be, that is how many more passing yards that Jacoby Brissett had in this game than Kyler Murray has had in any game all season long. At 320 passing yards. Kyler Murray hasn't had more than 220 in a game this year. Like, of course it's a Kyler Murray problem. Like, the offense looks so much better. And yeah, there are injuries in this Colts secondary, and like you said, it is not a great Colts defense at this point in time. But Jacoby Brissett, to me, is one of the great litmus tests across the NFL. To me, he's like QB 33. He's not a starter. He's proven he's not a starter, but like, he is that exact point where if you can't look a lot better than Jacoby Brissett, which like last year, You saw it in New England. Jacoby Brissett versus Drake Maye. Drake Maye looked a lot better. He just did in that offense. If he's outshining your starting quarterback, that guy is not a franchise quarterback. He just ain't. And without Marvin Harrison Jr. in this game, who goes down with a concussion midway through, he still lights it up. I can't help but think that, not to say Kyler's, again, quarterback 33, I don't think he's that bad, but I don't think that he's the guy that's taking you where you want to go. I just don't. And I think that they are the coaching staff there. It's either going to be the coaching staff or Kyler yet again after this season with how it's kind of going. And I would be surprised if they lent Kyler yet again. I just would be, given how everything's gone since, what was it, the 2021 season, which was like the last time he really was lighting it up. It doesn't look good.
It's tough. And, Jacoby Brissett was hitting some throws in this game. He ripped a couple of digs to Zay Jones, who, again, you're down to Zay Jones. He's making Zay Jones. He was getting Zay Jones explosive plays in this game. And Kyler Murray couldn't get explosives going with Michael Wilson or Marvin Harrison Jr., who are both, we acknowledge, are very, very good players. So it brings up a tough question for the Cardinals once you look at the long term of this team. But going back to the Colts for a little bit, I think Tyler Warren is living every kid's dream of just put me on the field and I'm just going to do something cool. Like they have him lined up at fullback, off the ball, on ball, tight end, stretched out receiver. They give him the ball in rushes, receptions. He is truly doing everything that he did at Penn State for a creative offensive coordinator in Shane Steichen. And he has also helped sort of give this offense more bite after the catch. That's something that's really stood out about this Colts offense is they have so much more oomph after the catch. They're a lot more explosive in that area. And I think a lot of that is due to the fact that Tyler Warren is such an engine in that yards after the catch area. Josh Downs playing really well. You're getting some big Alec Pierce catches, especially over the middle, which is something that Alec Pierce really never did before this season. He was always I'm going to catch routes on the XY axis. He is going downfield as far as possible. So looking long-term for the Colts, I mean, their next 4 games, they're going to LA to face the Chargers. They got a home game against Tennessee. They go to Pittsburgh and have a home game against Atlanta before the bye. Like, we're potentially looking at a 2-loss, maybe 1-loss Colts team heading into the bye. Now, post-bye, their schedule gets brutal because that's when they have Seattle on the road, Kansas City on the road, San Francisco at home. Optimistically, they'll have Purdy and Kittle back. They have both Houston games and both Jacksonville games after the bye. So the fact they've gotten out to this lead, gotten out to this start before the bye in the AFC, you've kind of, I'm not going to say they've solidified a playoff spot because we've seen teams collapse down the stretch, but they've given themselves a really good lead on the rest of the conference.
Yeah, they are tied now with the Bucs for the best record in football, and they have the best plus-minus of any team in the NFL. That's a pretty damn good start if you're the Indianapolis Colts. Now, they did have the worst pregame since Bane blew up Heinz Field in The Dark Knight Rises, with Charvarius Ward going out with concussion, which the video of that's insane. I also didn't realize until I watched 3 times that. So Drew Ogletree, it looks like from the high angle, it looks like Drew Ogletree went and just headhunted him. That's how crazy the video is. Just looks like he got clocked going over the middle of the football field, but they're both they're both just catching footballs. Whoever was throwing footballs threw 2 footballs to almost the exact same spot, and they just crunch each other. And apparently Anthony Richardson broke his orbital bone with a warm-up band. Not even sure how it's possible.
What's going on in Indianapolis? What's happening right now?
Anthony Richardson finally starts trying, and that's what happened.
Resistance bands hurt like hell.
They do.
Those things.
I wonder if it had a metal thing at the end too. If it was a handle that snapped back at him and popped him, because that would hurt like a bitch.
We need to get Anthony Richardson's bones stronger. We need to get him to drink some more milk. We need to get him on the GOMAD diet just to make sure his bones get stronger. But it's the way that it was reported was all just man, Charvarius Ward out that's a late scratch due to an injury. Oh, that's weird. Pre-game warm-ups, that's even weirder. I assumed that it was when they had helmets on and were doing like pre-game walkthroughs. I hadn't seen the video until I you just told me. What's happening? Like, how do you throw 2 footballs in the same area? That feels like, I'm not gonna like crush the Colts for it because like weird stuff happens in the NFL. But what's happening here? Like, what's going on? And now Travarius Ward also might be out for an extended period of time, given the severity of the concussion. And again, you have a game against the Chargers. You have the Steelers. You have Atlanta coming up. Like, that's not good to have your best corner out because of an injury suffered that could have been completely avoided at this point.
Well, the Colts, they're living right, except for apparently in pregame. All right, let's get to the Bengals at Packers. Hopefully briefly. I don't need to talk about this game any more than I watched it. Packers win. They don't cover the 14.5-point spread, though. 27-28. They do hit the over there, 44.5. My number is 2. That's the amount of takeaways Green Bay has this year. Only the Jets have fewer. And one was an end-of-the-half Hail Mary against Cleveland. So basically, they have one takeaway in the flow of the game. And it came all the way back in week 1 against the Detroit Lions. And it was when Evan Williams jumped a route. That's not good. This is a far cry from the team that had, at this point in time, Xavier McKinney leading the league in interceptions last year. I don't know. Like, it feels just weird. It feels weird right now. For the 3rd straight game, they've kind of played down to their competition. And this one's coming off a bye. It's a quarterback in Joe Flacco, who was literally was traded this week. The playbook they're running is like 8 plays long. Great that they came away with a win, but another game where it just feels like if you really are who you look like against the Lions and the Commanders, if you really are supposed to be a contender in the top of the NFC, you don't have the Bengals hanging around with 4 minutes left in the game. It still was a game at that point in time.
I'm just a little concerned still about the Packers secondary.
Mm-hmm.
They put together a good stretch of play to start the year. I thought the game against the Commanders for Keyshawn Nixon was one of the better like cornerback single games I've seen this year, but it just feels like they're missing some punch in the cornerback room. It feels like they're missing some oomph. And when you watch this game, there was a lot of access given to T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, and you just don't really have a dude out there. We talked about earlier, guys, you don't really have to go get you a bucket. They don't have that guy in the secondary. That guy is Xavier McKinney, and Xavier McKinney can't be everywhere at the same time. He can't put out all the fires. So I'm concerned about their secondary, but I also am a little bit concerned about the offense. It feels like they kind of they're a little sluggish at times. And I think you said it, you put it the right way. We're like, they're kind of letting teams hang around. And I don't know if it's just because like they're just overlooking a lot of teams, but it just feels like they're just sluggish. I don't know how to describe it. When the offense is clicking and on firing on all cylinders, you saw it. You saw it in this game. The few drives where they really were clicking, they look unstoppable. The Tucker Kraft touchdown was awesome. You got Matthew Golden, like explosive plays downfield. We love to see more of that. We like to see more of that. But there are times where the offense kind of just turtles a little bit. And I just get concerned about them turtling against teams that aren't the Bengals, who are actually going to be competitive with you, especially in an NFC where the margin between the great team and the good team is so thin that even if the Packers are a great team, they can get got at any point in the playoffs. They can get got at any point when it comes to playoff seeding. You just worry that their offense kind of just goes for lulls in stretches of the game.
I feel like one of the biggest things is that they are extremely run heavy still. And some of that's like they've kind of consistently been playing with a positive script this season. You know, even the game they lost, they were ahead most of that game against the Browns. So like they keep running the football, but like they're not that great at running the football. They're not a team that can really get away with just being hey, we're up by, a score. Let's run the ball on first down every time. They're not a team that can consistently churn positive gains, and especially when they've had backup offensive linemen in there the past few weeks. Now, Zach Thomas back this week, and that was huge. But I think that's one of the biggest things is they don't go for the jugular, seemingly. They're not out for blood. Once they're up, they're kind of just content to just try to play a little ball control. And it's almost, I don't want to say they're scared of Jordan Love, but like they're scared of him making a mistake, it seems like, when they get up. And obviously, he did make the mistake that lost in the game against the Browns. But I just feel like if you're paying a guy that much, you want him to, when you're up, to just try to bury teams.
Yeah, and I think it fits this team. It fits with the explosive ability of this team. I think the point about the run game is so important because if you're not good at running the ball, that sort of takes away the Packers' quick game because their quick game is Josh Jacobs' 4 and 5 yard carries. I love Jordan Love. I've called him, like, again, an ethical hooper because he's not throwing checkdowns. He's not throwing quick game. He's throwing the ball 40 yards downfield. And if you can't be efficient running the football, that means you're putting yourself in second and longs, third and longs, where you still can throw the ball 40 yards downfield, but it just doesn't flow correctly. So I think they do need to run the ball a little bit more effectively. It's not just often, it's you got to start churning out 4 and 5 yard gains. And I wonder if they kind of go back to, I'm not gonna say go back to, but do you use some of the Malik Willis like triple option stuff to try and get the ball into the other player's hands instead of having the Josh Jacobs headbutt going for most of the game? But I'm curious where their counter punches are going to come from because this is another game, like you said, where they kind of just lull teams to sleep.
I wonder if it's also part of just not having Jaden Reed and wanting to, Matthew Golden, he looked great in this game, 3 catches, 86 yards, but he is still a rookie, and they obviously don't go to him a ton. I wonder if it's just not having that go-to guy that you feel completely comfortable with, and so opting to run the ball when they're fine. I'm not lamenting the running game. The running game's fine, but it's just it's not so dominant that you can just utilize that. I just remember when Aaron Rodgers was was quarterback of the Packers, they got up, they never stopped passing. There was no point where it was okay, we're going to take the ball out of Aaron's hands and try to deflate this game. It was always, you're going to trust Aaron no matter what to do what's best and not have that big game-changing play that gives the ball back to the other team and flips the script, flips the momentum. So I do wonder if they keep playing games like this and maybe they drop a couple more if we see a little bit more aggressive Matt LaFleur with the lead going forward.
Side note, has anybody looked less cool in a Bengals uniform than Joe Flacco did today? That was so swagless. And the Bengals uniforms are cool. He just didn't look cool at all. I don't know if it's the big helmet, because Joe Flacco got a big old helmet. And he just doesn't look cool in that uniform. I don't know what it is about the Bengals uniform and the tiger stripes that just don't make him look cool. It has no swag. It has no aura.
He just looks like a dad out there, he's
somebody
just
let Unc on the field.
Yeah, he's just beyond. Rodgers is old, obviously, but he doesn't have he doesn't present as someone's father who popped into a Pop Warner game. That's Joe Flacco presents us that. Let's get to the Browns at Steelers. Steelers win going away 23-9. They cover 5.5 point spread. 38.5 points was the over under there. The under hits. What is your number from this game?
My number is 7.8, which is Aaron Rodgers' ADOT, his highest since week 2. And I kind of struggled picking a number for this game because it felt like the Steelers kind of do what the Steelers do, which is just they sit on opponents and just let them punch themselves in the face, which is exactly what the Browns did in this game. Dylan Gabriel threw the ball 52 times. What are we doing? What are we doing letting the rookie throw the ball 52 times in a game against the Steelers? That just felt like a really odd game plan, really odd Like, it wasn't like the game was out of hand either. Like, it didn't get out of hand until later in the game. Dylan Gabriel went 29 of 52. He had 4.3 yards per attempt. Like, it's so hard to throw the ball 52 times and only get under 250 passing yards.
And their offensive line was just getting annihilated.
It was getting worked.
Cam Robinson gave up double-digit pressures in this game.
This was his second game as a Brown.
Booze.
This was a game where the Steelers stars showed up. I actually thought the DK and Aaron Rodgers connection downfield looked a lot better, despite the one big overthrow that took a touchdown off the board for DK, where it looked like the ball just got like shot out of the sky. Where like Aaron Rodgers threw like a moon ball and DK was open, and then the ball just hits. It's like it hit an imaginary wall and just fell straight down like 5 yards in front of DK. And it's just like, man, that's tough. That's just a tough one. But the catch
battle around. It was just why is DK running like 5 yards past it, and then why is Aaron Rodgers throwing one like a 10-yard short?
Yeah, that was a duck if I've ever seen one. But it looked like their downfield connection looked a lot better. There was a sideline grab that was really cool. The sluggo touchdown was really sick. And I think that getting DK Metcalf involved downfield, as cool as the stuff that he's done after the catch has been this year, getting him doing the downfield stuff is really cool and really good for them to get explosives, because this Steelers team still does not get a lot of explosives in the passing game. But I do think they had a good game plan against Myles Garrett, a lot of quick game, a lot of chips. And this was a quarterback that in Aaron Rodgers that Myles Garrett kind of struggles to get to this, especially this point in Aaron Rodgers' career where he's just throwing the ball in like 2.2 seconds. So this was a game that was really predicated on Yak. Darnell Washington had a couple of big catches. You had Jonnu Smith doing his usual like Jonnu Smith underneath target stuff.
The Darnell Washington Aaron Rodgers connection cracks me up so much.
It's so funny. It's so funny because he just puts it up in the area code.
Yeah.
Just put it around him and he'll go get it. The first play they had from the scrimmage, they do what everybody's doing now when it comes to like inserting on duo, and they fake it on a play action pass, but they do it with the 300-pound tight end, and he's just like wide open in coverage. And it's just, you could tell the bus ran out of gas at like the 25-yard line because he gets run down by Tyson Campbell and fumbles the ball out of bounds. But you could tell that that was all he had left. That was it for Darnell Washington. But the defense played really well in a game that I thought they were going to struggle to they struggled to stop the run early this season. It felt like they shored that up a little bit. Derek Harmon had his best game as a pro. Nick Herbig is just incredible. I do think he is their best pass rusher at this point in TJ Watt's career, and at this point in Nick Herbig's career. I think he is the best pass rusher on the Steelers. And then they're just so opportunistic. I don't think the Steelers are always going to show up when it comes to pressure rate, but they can finish. Whenever they get around the quarterback, they finish plays. That's what TJ Watt's always been really good at. He is a great finisher when it comes to sacks. Nick Herbig is a great finisher. Highsmith is a great finisher. They finish plays really well. You had 2 Jalen Ramsey sacks in this game, which I thought was awesome. He's played well for them since coming over, and they kind of moved him from safety to outside to just like nickel. So it's been really cool seeing that. But this game felt like Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf like stole the show, and then the defense finished it off.
Yeah, Nick Herbig. I was high on Nick Herbig. It was probably one of my better calls. I don't have a lot. It's probably one of my better calls. I just looked up. It was 57th on my board. He ended up being like pick 120 something. I could never have in a million years told you he was going to be as good as he is in the NFL. Like, he has been a stud pass rusher for them, like truly one-on-one. And now in this game, it's like, yeah, it was Cam Robinson. Okay, whatever. But even other like against Will Campbell earlier this year, he was tearing him up. Like he has been awesome for them. Jack Conklin, I don't know why I laugh, but Jack Conklin had a concussion in this game. Can he just retire? I don't think I've ever seen an offensive lineman as injured as Jack Conklin. I think he's been on every injury report since he signed with the Cleveland Browns. That guy, I just feel terrible for him. The guy cannot stay healthy. This Cleveland Browns offensive line cannot stay healthy. And they're in deep trouble. They just are. All right, let's get to the Broncos at Jets. Broncos win 13-11. Don't cover a 7-point spread. The under hits there 43.5. And now a lot of people gave us shit last week for missing on a lot of games. Rightfully so. We did. But I don't think I've ever described a game and how it was going to go better this season than what I said about this Broncos game. I was like, Sauce Gardner is going to follow Cortland Sutton. The Jets aren't going to win because the Jets still stink, but they'll muck it up. The under's going to hit. Bo Nix isn't going to hit his over. He's going to go under. And that's exactly what happened. This was one of the ugliest games you'll ever see. The number for this game was -10. And that was the amount of net passing yards from this Jets offense. When they dropped back to pass, they averaged going backwards. The first time that's happened in a game since 2023, when the Giants played the Jets, that was Tyrod Taylor and Tommy DeVito in that game for the Giants. So good company to share if you're Justin Fields. But yeah, I mean, this was, I don't know what more to say about this. 9 sacks for the Broncos. Justin Fields, what I talked about earlier about the guys who can keep their eyes downfield when pressure comes, Justin Fields is the guy that can't. He's the guy that every pressure gets felt like it's a free runner. And honestly, watching this game back, I was like, dude, he should stop going through his progressions. Like we criticize quarterbacks as like one read and run, as if that's a bad thing. That's all he should do. Every time he tries to get past his first read, something bad happens. He gets sacked. He doesn't find it. Like he just needs to, like, if it's not there, just go, dude. Just start running. That's your best bet at this point if you're Justin Fields.
We got to start sending better football overseas, man. If we truly want to grow the game, we got to start sending better football overseas. We're getting, I think, Jags Rams next week, so the game should be a little better. But the Rams might not have Puka. We're going to get to that later. We got to start sending better football. We can't keep sending the Jets over here, man. This was awful to watch. This was an awful game on both sides. And we'll get to the Broncos later, but Justin Fields just doesn't, and this was always my criticism with Justin Fields, it's always a second too late. It's either he's feeling pressure too quickly or he doesn't feel it quickly enough. It's either he's getting the ball out too quickly or the ball's not coming out quick enough. On one of the sacks to before halftime, it was 3rd and long, but there's a shallow route coming underneath. All you got to do, just hit the shallow crosser. See if you can get some yards after the catch. He tries to extend, he gets sacked, and they have to punt. And it just feels like the Jets are calling plays scared of their quarterback throwing the ball. That 2-minute drive was one of the worst 2-minute drives I've ever seen. And I saw what the Jaguars did on Monday Night Football last week. This was worse than that. They had no urgency at all. And I think Rich Eisen was saying on the broadcast, like, Kurt Warner's over here ripping his hair out because they have no urgency. And it sucks for Aaron Glenn and Tanner Engstrand, who I think are both good at what they do. But this is the guy you chose. This is the guy you paid $40 million. And it's just not working at all. So it's just a really ugly watch for the Jets right now offensively. And it undoes what was a very, very good defensive performance by that team.
The Jets remain the lone winless team in the NFL. That might stay that way for a while, but they have an easy go of it coming up. Panthers, Bengals, Browns. If they're going to win a game, it's probably going to come within the next 3 weeks. Let's flip the side of the ball here to Denver, where watching a game like this, and again, Sauce didn't follow Cortland Sutton the whole game, but basically when they went to play man coverage, that's when he did. He shut him down. No one else was getting open necessarily against man coverage. I just don't think when everyone and their mother said this offseason, Bo Nix needs a wide receiver 2. His literal wide receiver 2 last year, Devon Villay, isn't on the roster, isn't playing this year. Like you don't have a great plan B when Cortland Sutton's not the guy. And the 24-year-old second-round running back you drafted got 2 carries in this game. Your third-round wide receiver, who was a senior, now that's not always everything, but like he ain't young. He was drafted in the 3rd round and like spoke of for his polish and like ability to translate quickly to the NFL. He's not getting targets, 2 targets in this game. It's like, I don't know if they did enough. And I don't know. They flat out didn't do enough for this year. Maybe going forward, those guys take a next step. Who knows? But I think George Patton, it's worth criticizing. Like, hey, everyone knew it, and it just ain't getting better.
The problem with the Broncos is that if you stop the run against this Denver team, you shut down their entire offense. And it goes into the lack of weapons at receiver and tight end. I mean, Evan Ingram led this team in targets against the Jets. That's not a good sign. And the reason they need the run game to work so well is because everything is so congested for them, because they have no explosiveness downfield that they can trust. Troy Franklin has not stepped up in a way that I think everybody expected Troy Franklin to step up in. You don't have any verticality in this offense. And even when you do, Bo Nix also isn't a vertical passer. Like we keep wanting Bo Nix to hit the downfield passes, but I just don't think that's going to be Bo Nix. So you created this. You have to live in the mid-range. You have to win and be uber blazing efficient between 10 to 15 yards. And the best way to do that is you have to be really good in the run game. They averaged 3 yards a carry in this game against the Jets. J.K. Dobbins had 14 carries for 40 yards. That's not going to get it done. And then you could tell that the Broncos couldn't run the ball because you kept doing jet sweeps and end arounds and gives to Evan Ingram, to Troy Franklin. You kept trying to manufacture running yards any way you possibly could. But the fact that you can't run the ball, it neuters everything for this offense, because now all the Jets had to do was just sit in that 10 to 15 yard range, and they just shut down the Broncos offense. So until they get Ben Powers back healthy, until they're able to mash teams on the ground again, this is probably what the Broncos offense is going to look like, because they don't have enough juice. They really don't.
And yet, hey, the beat goes on. They win this game. That's better than losing these games if you are the Denver Broncos. 4-2.
Win your clunkers.
Yeah, exactly. 4-2. Chargers at 4-2 as well. Chiefs at 3-3. AFC West still wide open. All right, let's get to Rams at Ravens. Rams win 17-3. They cover the 7.5 point spread. Obviously, the under hits there. It was 44.5. What's your number for this game?
My number is 37%. That is the chance that the Ravens make the playoffs, according to the NFL website, pre-Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football. Look, we said it when Lamar got hurt, as if you can get to the bye, maybe you can make something happen. But, man, this is just a rough hole to try and dig yourself out of. On the positive side for the Ravens, you stopped the run in this game. The Rams did not run the ball very well in this game. You got Derrick Henry going. He had 24 carries for 122 yards. You just didn't have Lamar Jackson, which is that's gonna be a big issue. Cooper Rush and Snoop Huntley are not it. I believe that both guys, you could combine Cooper Rush and Snoop Huntley and still not get a quarterback as good as Lamar Jackson is. So you just could tell that they're trying to play, they're playing the hits. Well, not even the hits. They're playing the music just until they get their star back. I do think it was interesting that in the first game since Aloy Gilman got traded to the Ravens, according to Next Gen Stats, Kyle Hamilton did not play a single snap at deep safety. He was entirely around the box, entirely a nickel. This is going to be Kyle Hamilton's future for 2025. He is going to be a nickel player, overhang. I wouldn't be surprised if they play him at dime linebacker when Roquan Smith gets healthy, because they just lack a lot of depth there. But this is sort of the inverse of what happened last year.
I was going to say, this will be the best irony if moving Marlon Humphrey outside and putting Kyle Hamilton in the slot is what fixes this version, which is like the flip side of
Yeah.
what they did last year.
Yeah, this is the opposite of what they did last year when like they had all the communication issues. Was they moved Kyle Hamilton back? This year they're moving him forward, and somehow that'll probably fix the defense. But you just worry without Nnamdi Madubuike, without most of your star pass rushers, you
Ndafe.
could not get Matthew Stafford on the ground. He was only pressured on 4 of his 29 dropbacks today. Like that's going to remain an issue even after you get your stars back. So if Zach Orr can't manufacture pressure via sim pressures, it's going to be really hard for them to win games. But look, you finally got to the bye. You know what the odds are. Now it's time to go make history a little bit. It's time to go be the first ones to do this.
Man, I would just the state of the AFC, because when you look up and down this conference, it's like, who do you have to get past? I think we can say the Bills, Patriots, they're in. Dolphins, Jets, they're out. You could say the Steelers are your biggest competition in the North. The rest of the North is out. Bengals, Browns, they're just out. You go to the South. Colts, Jags, Texans, like at this point in time, one of those, maybe 2 of those teams go above 500, but not all 3 of those teams. I would just be too surprised. They play each other too much. And then you have the West, where I could see Chargers, Broncos, Chiefs all getting above 500, but I think one of those will probably fall out when it's all said and done. So you realistically have 2 teams probably that are for sure going to be above 500, and your biggest threat, the Steelers, you play twice. So you're obviously 3 games behind them, but you can make up 2 of those games very quickly. So it's not out of the realm of possibility, but yeah, it's just what is out of the realm of possibility to me is this defense ever becoming like what we hoped it would become. We thought it was going to be like a great unit. It ain't going to be a great unit. It could be average, but I don't think you're going to get too much more than that this year.
They just lack juice up front. They just don't have the pass rush to go and win games right now, especially Madubuike out for the rest of the year. I just don't know how they're going to win.
Last game here, and we'll get out. Tennessee Titans head to Las Vegas, lose 20-10 to the Raiders. Raiders cover 4.5 point spread. The under hits there. It was 41.5. Titans obviously dropped to 1-5. Raiders, well, they advance, get their first win since week 1. My number for this is 4.5. That's the amount of sacks Jeffrey Simmons has this year. Leads all defensive tackles, tied with Byron Murphy, who's having a breakout season in his own right. Simmons looks like a defensive player of the year candidate if, well, the Titans had a good defense or anything at all. It's just sad. Honestly, the only storyline that's interests me heading out of this game is where Jacoby Myers gets traded. Do you have any good ideas? I thought Steelers or Texans. Do you have any idea of where he might go? Because I think you got to trade him if you're the Las Vegas Raiders at this point.
I think the Steelers makes a lot of sense. I don't know if they do it given what their receiver room looks like now, but Atlanta could be a little fun, especially with some of the juice that they need. They use Raymond McLeod a lot as a blocker, and Raymond McLeod is not that dude as a blocker. I think the Texans make sense if they think they can make that push for the playoffs. Those are really only the few teams I could see make sense for them. Maybe Washington, just to get another like in-between guy in case Terry McLaurin just never fully gets back to 100%.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm curious what his market will be. I'm honestly a little curious what Jeffrey Simmons' market would be, because I could see a lot of teams making a swing for him, especially given his play and where the Titans are right now. I honestly, if I were the Titans, I wouldn't trade him, because he is a core franchise player and the leader of that defense. It would be crazy to trade him, but for the right price, I mean, we've seen crazier.
I would trade Calvin Ridley in a heartbeat, though.
Yeah,
Someone wants to give you anything for Calvin Ridley?
Calvin Ridley's out of here. Let's get him out of here. Real quick on the Titans, their offensive line is awful, and it's really bad that it's awful considering how much they invest in an offensive line. It's bad when Bill Callahan's your offensive line coach. You have what is, I believe, 2 first-round picks up front on the offensive line. You spent a lot of money on a left tackle, and you are still awful. Like that, some of the sacks were a little bit on Cam Ward, but some of them, like they're just not touching Max Crosby. Like that's inexcusable at this point. It's week 6, and you haven't figured out how to protect your quarterback, and it sucks because you can see that Cam Ward you can see the talent, but you're brought down by sacks, you're brought down by drops. This is truly this is one of the most miserable teams in football. Like, I know the Jets are bad and miserable. The Titans are miserable for a lot of different reasons, just based on the fact they have a number 1 pick who they can't really tell is like a legit dude because everything around him is so bad.
Yeah, I think it's time with JC Latham. And so he gets hurt week 1, hip injury, comes back, and it's Max Crosby. Yeah, it's tough, but he gave up, I think, like 3 sacks in this game. And I think it's time to say JC Latham's a guard. He's a guard in the NFL. If you want Cam Ward to be upright, JC Latham's a guard. You got to do better at tackle than JC Latham. And he could be a dominant guard. I mean, he truly could be. And yeah, it's unfortunate that he probably drafted guards in the top 12 back-to-back years. That's just, if you're allocating capital to your roster, that's not where you'd want it. But he's a guard. But Jacoby Myers, though, I mean, like, you got Jack Besh barely playing right now because Jacoby Myers. Like, if you're the Raiders, like, do it tomorrow. Just, like, let your young guys get to play. If Jacoby Myers doesn't want to be there, you already asked for a trade. Just let him walk. Let him go. Let him go.
Let's get the young guys reps.
Yes. There you have it. Week 6, almost in the books. We actually, I think the NFL saved their best for Monday Night Football because we got a great Monday Night Football doubleheader. We'll be breaking it all down for you guys on Tuesday. Remember, subscribe, follow, comment, whatever you want on the new Push in the Pile YouTube channel. Helps us out. Or leave a 5-star review if you want. That helps us out too. Until next time, keep pushing.